Okay, shall we start or we'll wait for some more?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Project सब कौन हैला पिला मनंकर अपन मनंकर सब
ତା ପ୍ରୋଜେକ୍ଟ ସାମ୍ପଲ ଗୋଟେ ଦରକାର ଥିଲା।
सैंपल दे दबा इतरे दे दबा काली अडू दे आज काली अडू दे दो को माने स्टार्ट कलेनी प्रोजेक्ट को माने स्टार्ट कलेनी How many of you have started the project? Yes. How many of you have already started the project? को माने स्टार्ट कलेनी प्रोजेक्ट भितरे ना नहीं ना सेमती अछंती जोट थिले Okay, we'll start. About the different nature, objective, definition, meaning of manpower planning. And today we'll discuss the process of manpower planning and the approaches. Job design, I will not discuss today, I will discuss in the next class. And I hope I'm audible and visible. Now, write down the different process. You may get a question like, write down the different process of manpower planning. A process, you design a process or as a HR manager, you have given
Sir, question टिके आउट रिपीट करिवे
अरे कौन साउंड होची एते जोरे तमन ओके you may get a question like as a HR manager what kind of steps you will adopt in the process of manpower planning or the process of human resource planning. You may get a question like that. So the process of HRP is very simple. In fact, there is no complications are there. The same process what we have discussed in planning, similar kind of process is there. The first is that analysis of organizational need. Analysis of organizational need. This is the first step which we usually do before identifying the manpower requirement. Now a systematic manpower requirement steps are to be adopted. The first is that you need to analyze what the organization requirement is actually. The requirements are identified on the basis of different steps, which includes identifying the vision, mission, and objective. So these are the basics of your manpower planning. The manpower planning is set on the basis of the organizational vision, mission, and objective. Why it is done in that way? Because the vision and mission identifies your prospects, your future orientation, your growth, your expansion, your aspiration of reaching on a particular at a particular step or at a particular. So this is what is the beginning. First is that analysis of organizational need, which also includes the vision, mission, and objective of the organization. Usually, that analysis is also identified with environmental analysis, where we need to go for SWOT. That we know, we need to think of SWOT, what is the strength and weakness of the organization. And the threatening and opportunities are also identified by discussing about the strength and weaknesses of the competitors. So that is what is included in the first step, analysis of organizational environment, organizational need, which defines the vision, mission, and objective of the organization, which is usually identified on the basis of the environmental analysis. Environmental analysis also includes here, what it includes? It includes internal and external. So internal and external environments are to be identified. So internal is the present position of the manpower. Okay, the requirement of the manpower, the technological aspects, because see, on the basis on the ground of the technology, what you have, we need to engage people accordingly. If the technologies are there and the human factor are not having those technological knowledge, then they need to enhance their capability through conduction or conducting of different kind of training and development programs. So this is what is internal, and external environments are to be discussed, are to be analyzed. So the person who is in charge of designing the systematic process of human resource planning, he should have a clear idea on the vision, mission, and objective. He should have the knowledge on the environment, and that environment includes external and internal. Without that, the manpower planning in case of a big company is not possible. In case of small, or in case of, we can say, if the organization is working with 100 or 200 people, then it is okay with that. If the organization is spreading over to different places of a country or worldwide organizations, it is very difficult to go with that, identifying the requirement of manpower. And you cannot go with a systematic process without having the knowledge of vision, mission, objective, environment analysis, which also includes SWOT, and the internal and external environments. Once it is done, yes.
So external environment need to analysis. What type of internal environment need to analysis?
See, external and internal are identified as, we can identify the internal are your micro, external your macro. Okay, then we can say internal are your direct and external are your indirect. So see, we are not discussing it from organizational prospects. We are discussing it from manpower requirement prospects, right? We are discussing it not from organizational prospects. We are discussing it from manpower prospects, right? Manpower requirement prospects. Okay. Now, on that angle, how the internal environment influence it, and how the external environment influence it, how the micro environment influence, how the macro environment influence, and the same direct and indirect. The internal, micro, and direct are similar kind. The external, macro, and indirect are similar type. Now, internal is your existing manpower, the number and quality of manpower, their achievements, their performance. Okay, so that is usually discussed. Okay, and the tools and techniques which are used. Now, external, we can say the availability of manpower, the competition in which the organization is facing, the competition which the organization is facing at present, because they need to prepare similar kind of situation within the organization so that the people can produce more with qualitative product by giving better services and can compete with the competitors. It is all about the human factor effort. It is not always about the machine factor. It is always about the human factor, how the people are able to work with the technologies. Right now, this is what is the external, is the competition is one. Then the rules and regulations governed by the government, that is another. Societal influences, because in approaches you will read social demand approach. In approaches you will read manpower requirement approach. In approaches you will read rate of return approach. These are all your external. These are all your external. The HRP is all depends on your education system. It is all depends on your education system. The beginning of human resource planning, the beginning of manpower planning is your education system. From country wise, जेतरा हमें country wide देखिबा, overall गोटे country को देखिबा, then it starts with education. Suppose तमे कहि परिबो गोटे जिंस चिंता करि परिबो कि at Bhubaneswar how many number of your BTech institutes are there, केते परिमाणर BTech institute अछि, हमें कहि परिबा 40 टा 40 BTech institutes are there. Right now the thing is that it is हमें कहूचे गोटे country wise manpower planning करछु. Manpower planning, types of manpower planning मु तो बहुत जिंस कहया को चाहूची. I am unable to speak. The manpower planning is done from organizational level. Types of manpower planning. Types of manpower planning. Okay, one is from departmental level, organizational level. Okay, then next is your society level and nationwide. Nationwide is madhya manpower planning goes, which is broad. It is bigger. Now, how it is? Why it is broad and bigger? See, amara Bhubaneswar re keteta engineering college achi. How many number of engineering colleges are there? 40. Now, what is the strength of all together those 40 colleges? Let's say pratyek college on an average jodi 200 seats thibo. If 200 seats are there, then what is the number? It is of around 8,000. Bujhila na nahi? 8,000 students can enroll in one academic session. How many students will pass? Let's say 7,500 students will pass the course. Now, manpower planning says that from country-wise, whether these 7,500 students can accommodate or can be engaged after completion of the course. Now, say wise, our educational institution to set up career. Our Ministry of HRD, education department, they should think in that way. The permission should be given to the colleges accordingly. That is what is the supply of manpower. Now, demand of manpower. Whether the demand for those 7,500 students are there or not. If it is not there, then now unemployment will increase. The ratio or the rate of unemployment will increase. So in that way, we need to think of manpower. At organizational level, we never think it. We need to think the concept, or we need to think of the manpower planning from countrywide. Seithipai country kon kare na education system re prathame aga kon kare population ko dekhe. How it starts? It started with population. Country ra population kete hue seta ganana janaganana kara jaye. So we always calculate, ame ko boche tanga birth certificate, death certificate dita jaku compare karu, kete in kete out. So now what is that? Even kete re ame education ratio kete kadu, kete loko educated, kete loko illiterate, kete loko literate. So Bartaman 1 to 10th jaye patha padibe. How many will read from 1 to 10th? 10th class jaye. Now setere kete pila Odia medium le jibe, kete pila English medium le jibe, kete pila au ko course karibe. Bartan setu pun diversify hochi, the courses are diversified. Ki ITI karibo, ki science padibo, ki arts padibo, ki commerce padibo, ki au kon padibo. See, age of diversification ta hochi and openings must be there accordingly. That is what is your manpower planning from a country wise. The opening must be there accordingly, so that kon hochi na pila mane ke loko mane ba our citizen will not sit idle. Unemployment will reduce. The ratio of unemployment will reduce in that way if proper manpower planning is done at country level. Now सेटु कोन अछि ना पिला डाइवर्सिफाई ले +2 साइंस सपोज सो दिस इज कॉमर्स दिस इज साइंस दिस इज आर्ट्स दिस इज टेक्निकल कोर्स ना आर्ट्स रो को पिला ने बीए करछन को पिला आउट ऑन कोर्स करछन देन साइंस रो के को डाइवर्सिफाई कॉमर्स रो के को डाइवर्सिफाई करछन सो जे जुआल डाइवर्सिफाई करबा ता पई एम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑप्शन थिबार अछि सेही वाइज हमें कोन करछु नाउ द पॉपुलेशन शुड मैच विथ द एम्प्लॉयमेंट बर्तमान कोन करछि गवर्नमेंट गोटे काम कर गोटे प्रोजेक्ट करछि व्हाट इज दैट प्रोजेक्ट गोटे एटॉमिक एनर्जी रो गोटे प्लांट गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग टू सेट अप एंड द प्लांट इज ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड माने तार काम स्टार्ट हेछि मैनु तार प्रोसेस स्टार्ट हेछि एंड गवर्नमेंट सेट द टारगेट दैट by 2030 the production from that unit will start, right? Now 2030 the production from that unit will start. Now government will start the manpower planning right from the beginning. That means at 2030 how many number of persons with such kind of qualifications are to be required, are to be engaged, right? So government has to set the target and what kind of knowledge, what kind of qualification, what kind of expertise should be there with those people. Now Bartman government will match whether such kind of education system prevails in the present economy, present in the whether such kind of education system is present in the institutions. If it is not there, then government is to set institute accordingly, so that by 2030 let's say 1000 people are required, so that 2030,000 people should be ready to join in that company. That is what manpower planning. It is not that only designing the organization structure and putting the right man in the right job. Manpower planning is a vast concept where many things are involved. Just think in which way it moves. It started from population to employment, engagement. It should be balanced. So सेतिपय कोन कुछ एटा को बैलेंस करिया कहले हमर पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल करिया पे गवर्नमेंट कहूची एवं सेतिपय कोन होची ना जदी भी ए जिंस गुडा को चलीची केमिति एम्प्लॉयमेंट ये करिवो एबे ओडिसा सरकार कहउचंदी कि व्हाई यू आर गोइंग ऑलवेज टू +2 साइंस +3 साइंस और +2 आर्ट्स +3 आर्ट्स डू सम धंधा मूलक शिक्षा और हमें को स्किल बेस्ड कोर्सेस यू ट्राई टू गो सेतिपय हमर कोन होची ना गुडे स्किल बेस्ड इंस्टीट्यूट्स आर देयर, those who are offering courses so that the people can able to work without any kind of what I am saying ki higher qualification nahi ki they can also work. So this is what is proper manpower planning. Why the government is more concerned for the education system? The ultimatum is that manpower planning, proper manpower planning at country level, at society level. So the process, are you getting my point? The internal is there, the external is there. The external is very vast. So it is very difficult to identify the different parameters which are involved. Okay, now the HR manager or the person concerned who is there in charge of doing such manpower planning, he should have a wider knowledge on the vision, mission and objective. जेतले हमें गोटे नुवा गवर्नमेंट फॉर्म करछु तले गवर्नमेंट रो गोटे विजन अछि, गोटे मिशन अछि, किछि ऑब्जेक्टिव सेट करछु एवं सेहि थ्रू वी स्टार्टेड विथ द एनवायरमेंटल एनालिसिस. We need to identify the SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity and threatenings. Now next is that once it is there, then you need to think of the internal and external capabilities. Internal manpower strength, external manpower strength. So those are the things that are to be identified. Then the next is मु वर्तमान ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल लेवल को आसौची तम मान को मु नेशनल लेवल रे मैनपावर प्लानिंग रो जस्टिफिकेशन कहली. इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू डिस्कस दोस पॉइंट्स बट द रियल मैनपावर प्लानिंग इज डन एट दैट लेवल ओनली. मैनपावर प्लानिंग से लेवल रो हमर हुए. मैनपावर प्लानिंग बिगिनिंग इज द एजुकेशन सिस्टम. The beginning of manpower planning is the education system, which is to be designed by the government so systematically so that the unemployment ratio will come down and the demand and supply, demand for manpower and the supply of manpower eta kotu aschi etu asuni population ru asuni. Supply of manpower it comes from the education system, mu tom gati oda kahuchi education जेतबे हम पढिबा approaches of manpower planning. Education, the approaches is based on the education. It has three dimensions. One is your social demand approach, one is your rate of return approach, another one is your manpower requirement approach. Education no social demand asila, education no rate of return asila, and education no manpower requirement approach asila. And this education system builds or strengthens the manpower planning of a country. Right. Now the next step is, what is the next step? The step 2 includes putting organizational point of view to back calling. First is that analysis of the organizational need. Next is your present manpower, strength, capabilities, and potentialities. So after knowing the environment, we need to know the present manpower strength, capabilities, potentialities, achievements. These all based on your, again I can tell you about the performance appraisal. So present manpower, capabilities, potentialities are to be known. Mo pakhare kete parimanor buddhi achi, mo pakhare kete parimanor bala achi, so that accordingly I can project the future requirements. Now once it is done, then third step re analysis of present and future projects. The present and future projects are to be analyzed. The process I am discussing it here, it is not fixed. In fact, the points are not fixed. You read one book, you will find a process is there. You read some other book, you will find the process is defined in a different way. The process varies from organization to organization and person to person, in fact. But these are the points, similar points you will see or you will encounter, right? What are the first? Analysis of the organizational need, vision, mission, internal and external. Once it is done, then you need to know the present capabilities, potentialities of the manpower, those who are with you, those who are working with you. So by knowing that, what we can do is that we can project the future need. But before that, we need to analyze the present and future prospect projects. What the project is going on. And next is that what future project you will take care or you will start with that. So these are the two things that have to be analyzed. So the next, once it is done, the fourth step is your analysis, or I'm sorry, identification of manpower requirement. You need to identify the manpower requirement on the basis of the present project and future project. Now, what is that? We need to find out the gap. The gap analysis is, and how it is done. The analysis of manpower requirement is done with gap analysis. Gap analysis is what? The present level of skill and the required level of skill. That present and required is based on quantity and quality. Quantity ru ame number dekhuchu, quality ru ame buddhi, jnana, kausala egudiko dekhuchu. So what we do, we try to identify the number of people and the skill components which are required with those number. Now, what is that? The first is analysis of organizational need. Next is the strength and the present manpower requirement that we identify. Then we identify the present and future projects. Then we try to identify the manpower requirement, which is identified with gap analysis. Now, once gap is analyzed, then we'll take steps to go with recruitment and selection, with orientation and induction. So what is the steps is? We will recruit, we will select, we will go for orientation, and we will induct them and we will assign them the specific job or assignment, and simultaneously engaging. What is the step says? We need to recruit, we need to select, we need to orient them, we need to induct, and finally we need to engage the people. So the steps moves to the engagement. Once it is done, then next is your proper training and development and retention strategy. Because as per the requirement, why we are adopting retention strategy? Because in this you have done an exercise or analysis where you have identified the quantity and quality of manpower, and accordingly you have recruited, accordingly you have selected the people. So not only engaging them, you need to think of how to retain them, how to retain the people. So that retention can be done with training and development, and other with maintenance need. Right, now what is that? Recruitment, selection, orientation, induction, engagement. Once it is done, then we will go with training and development program and retention strategy. Okay, retaining the manpower is the biggest challenge I am saying. Yes,
Sir, you just said na step for recruitment, selection, then after induction, orientation, and engagement. So is that the welfare, employee welfare? We can mention it.
Welfare mechanisms will come later because it is a mandatory scheme. I mean, health, safety, welfare, these are mandatory. You must have read in your labor law paper in Factory Act 1948, wealth concern, welfare concern, and safety mechanisms. These are mandatory. Tamako cooling water daba, sitting arrangement kariba, ventilation daba, so tamako washing pai sabun daba. So section wise it is mentioned. So health, safety, welfare, these are mechanisms which are adopted as per the Factory Act 1948. But here what? These are the basic parameters. But initially,
sir, but some of time we are providing right well-being like incentive. Some of time the rewards and recognitions.
So these are the parameters. I mean, quality of work life. Quality of work life is one concept, and work-life balance is also another concept. So, quality of work life is the surrounding where you are working, right? Quality of work life, then you will not feel the sense of belongingness. So that's why I have written a retention strategy. Retention strategy is all about what kind of requirements are there among the manpower so that it can be resolved or it can be given to them so that the people can retain. So now welfare, basically no one is concerned for those. If it is there, it is okay. If it is not there, it is okay. But still people are demanding challenging work, higher responsibility, individual identity, career planning, succession planning, challenging work. So people are demanding those concepts nowadays. Right? Now, these are the welfare, or we can say some other mechanisms are not given that much of importance in front of those. So, jodi mate pacharibe konta apanku mu retain karuchi, so mu kahibi ki no, welfare is less effective as compared to the concept like challenging work, higher responsibility, individual identity, career planning. Okay, your growth, expansion and diversification, personal growth, expansion, involving the employees in the decision making process. एगुड़ाक लोकों को अधिका मोटिवेट करोची, एगुड़ाक लोकों को अधिका रिटेन करोची. So new techniques are there which have to be inculcated in the organization so that the people can be retained. All are required. It is not that it depends on the requirement of the people. Kiye ko level le kon darkar korchi, accordingly you need to serve. Then next is your training and development and retention strategies have to be conducted. Then next is what? Achievements and return on investment. So manpower planning ended with the achievement and return on investment. What return we are getting out of that investment. Now mate kahi paribe gote loko upare ame ko jagare kharcho korchu, what kind of expenditures we do on a man, on a person, on an individual. Tamane padithibe apan padithibe your training expenditures. Training ame tole koche training ra tinita stage rochi. Jette training program are broadly based on 3 stages. Tinita stage. Process of training based on 3. One is pre, one is present, one is post. Pre-reconala, we need to finalize the budget. Training budget kariba, identify the training objective, training need assessment, brochure, calendar. So everyone should prepare kariba. Then trainer to select kariba. So these are the pre-activities. Present activity, registration to training program, जाए end करिवा. Then post is most important. At the end, post activity आमे देखु छे ROI, return on investment. एतिकी टंका खर्च कलु एवं केते टंका how much we are gaining back, how much we are getting back. That is all about your return on investment. Seମିତି एठी मध्ये प्रत्येक जगह we spend money on the people, on the employees. Now what are the heads of expenditure we need to calculate? That is all about your human resource. What is that? Accounting. So in human resource accounting, we calculate the amount which we are spending on one person. That is starting from recruitment to entire recruitment re eti kharcha hitla tamo pare mu etiki tonga kharcha karchi. What is the return you are giving back to me? You are giving back to the company. Mu aji kon deli contribute kali mo organization ku. So what are the expenditure we are spending on a people? Like ame koi pariba recruitment re, tara sitting arrangement re, ventilation, lighting, AC, supportive staff, space we are providing. Then last name is your wages, salary, bonus, welfare. Right? Now these are the things that to be calculated. So what return he or she is giving, so that whether the person who is working with us, the last point, I hope it is not visible, but still you write. The last one is your the achievements and
return on investment.
Okay, return on investment. The last point. So the process of manpower planning ended with that, because by knowing that, we can think of whether to continue or whether to add. What is the total return and what is the investment we are spending on the people on different course or different angle. So then we can think of one second. So this is a continuous process. It starts from analysis of organizational need, then present manpower expertise, knowledge, strength, weaknesses. Okay, then we can think of the future and present projects. Then we can think of the manpower requirement. Okay, then we need to go for gap analysis. Then we can think of the recruitment, selection, and engagement of people. Then it ended with return on investment. I hope if you are getting a question, discuss the process of manpower planning. You can elaborate these points. You can elaborate these points, and you can. कौन है की बाटी कुर्सी तमरो आरंभ रो डिस्टर्बेंस होची चंदन म्यूट करो तमरो नाले मु पूरा समस्त को म्यूट कर देबी बसै देबी चुप से
What will be the question? Discuss the
process of manpower planning or human resource planning. I would a question ऐसी पर है मुझे तक discussion करनी types of manpower planning. मु खाली structure टा दे देबी. I will give the structure, you write it, and I hope you can elaborate it, because as we have discussed it in different forum, the different types we have already discussed in different forum or in different papers. मु तम structure दे देबी ताकू तमे थरे मन रखले you can elaborate. The first is that as per the
one second question please.
The types of manpower planning. What are the different types? One is functional HRP. One is period wise HRP. One is environment wise HRP. Functional HRP is identified as level wise HRP.
So second
is period wise HRP. Trend, period or trend. Next is environment wise HRP. Next is level wise HRP. Level wise HRP. Level wise HRP. Okay. Functional HRP is identified as HR, marketing, finance, production. So you need to identify the manpower requirement department wise. It is functional or department wise HRP. HR रे केते लोक काम करिवे, marketing रे केते लोक काम करिवे, finance and production.
Sir, last one.
Level wise.
No, sir. HRMM, HR marketing finance. Then
Production. Now the number of people will work in the production department. It is all about based on the functioning of the organization. If it is production oriented company or manufacturing unit, the more number of people will work in the production department. If it is a marketing oriented company, then more number of people will work in the marketing department. But mostly we always discuss that the very less number of people usually work in HR. The research says that it only 3 to 4, maximum 5% of people usually work in the HR department, and that percentage increases at a decreasing rate. If it is 200, then it is not 10 or 20. If it is 1000, then it is not 50. Right? If 5% देखिबा ताले 1000 रे 50 केबे भी लोक काम करिवेनी. It will increase but at a decreasing rate. Right? Now very few people usually work in HR department. Then marketing, it relates to the functioning of the organization. Accordingly, people are engaged. And why marketing? In marketing, we need more people because we need to go for brand. We need to go for brand development, promotion. Okay, we need to think of different marketing mix, marketing promotion. Okay. Next, from finance point of view, we need to work with not as compared to marketing and production, we need less number of people, and maximum people we need to work in production because we need to produce the product or we need to manufacture if it is a manufacturing unit. Then next from
Sir, why less people in HR? What is the reason behind it?
बेसी लोकरे मुसा मरंतिनी बुझी पारलो ना नहीं HR लोक बस्थांती सेठी कोन करिया पे
Planning
काटिबा बे बुझी पारलो ना नहीं. Now if you will go to HR people, the HR people will never say no. कहा पे HR लोक केबे नो कहबा देखिछो? HR लोक हार्डली से दे से नाइ नाइ मोर दरकार नहीं. केबे कहया देखिछो नाइ मु करि परिबिनी. केबे देखिछो? ना नाइ मु कहूची बोली तुम राजी हो जाउछो.
No, sir. HR people always accept always positive.
Positively. So सेतमे HR लोकन पाकु तमे जेते बेले जीवो से सब बेले के सर एटा दरकार. से के हौ दौता दउची तते. हौ रहिता देबी. केबे देबी गॉड नोस. सेतमे हमें HRD को कहू कोन कहलो? हौ रहिता तू दउची. बुझिलो? So HR is all about, if you will define it, if you will elaborate it, it is all about hardly required. Hardly required. Very few people are required to manage the n number of people. But that other side of the coin of HR says that highly required. It is hardly required, we know, but it is highly required because without those 3 to 4 to 5%, the organization cannot run, cannot succeed. So they are the policymaker, they are the instrumenter, or they are the motivator, or they are the implementer, they are the introducer, and they usually innovate new project in the existing unit. Now, if we will include many more people, then it will not go in a right way. So, many things are there. Organization structure. So, it always less number of people are there in the top or in the controlling unit. So that's why in HR department, very few number of people usually work as compared to the other units, other functionaries. Right now, wherever you go, jekonosi organization jao, dekhibo the percentage of people working in the HR department is less as compared to the other unit, as compared to the other functions. Bujila?
Clear, sir.
Next is your period wise HRP. Ame koi pariba, one is that long term human resource planning, medium term human resource planning, and short term human resource planning. Now certain projects, it all depends on the project. If the project is a long term, so we need to think of that. Long term is all about finance point of view. It is defined as systematically 5 or more than 5. That is long term. Medium term is 5 to 1. That is medium term, and short term is your less than. Usually government जेतले आसिला पंचवार्षिक योजना कला एबे ताकू कोन हेछि नुवा हे जेछि 5 ईयर प्लान को कोन हेछि एबे अरे कोन हेछि एबे मीटिंग बसतिला सेंट्रल लेवल ले अरे 5 इयर्स प्लान को नुवा ना दे हेछि कोन ये तो को
मन नहीं सर आइडिया आसनी
नो आइडिया
कोन दे हेछि ना मोरी भूली जाउछ मोरी मान को
सर 15 ईयर विजन प्लान
हां नहीं ना सर देखि दो इंटरनेट रे मोर मने पड़नी ना लॉन्ग टर्म मीडियम टर्म एंड शॉर्ट टर्म usually 5 or 5 years more is identified as long term when we think of the requirement of manpower. Okay, beyond 5 years that is long term, medium term 1 to 5 years that is medium term, short term instant kali more etiki loko darkar ei time ro loko, so we need to prepare people accordingly. So medium term, short term,
in internet it is showing that 15-year vision plan.
15-year vision plan हो देखि तक बड नुवा गोटे कोन हेछि उतरे हमर बीजेडी सरकार हम चीफ मिनिस्टर जाई पार्टिसिपेट करि पर नथिले ओके देखि दियो सेटा मु काली नले कहि देबी तुमको ना लॉन्ग टर्म से तमे कहि परियो कि सर लॉन्ग टर्म रे केमिति हाउ इट इज पॉसिबल यस इट इज पॉसिबल बिकॉज़ वी द इन नेशन लेवल वी डू द प्रोजेक्ट 5 ईयर प्लान रे प्रोजेक्ट करछ एवं केते लोक दरकार टू 2030 रे हां गोटे गोटे सरकार आसी कहउछन कि हमको एतिकी लोक दरकार 1 लाख लोक एंगेज हेबे इन ए प्रोजेक्ट so how they are identifying the number of manpower because they must have done the analysis from long term point of view so that is what from term point or period point of view the manpower planning is long term manpower planning medium term short term manpower planning. Next is environment wise we can say the different personalities are there or individuals are there so same wise environment re kaha ka effect hochi one is yourself individual that is all about the career planning. I need to enhance my capability potentiality so I'm undergoing different kind of training program or I'm trying to gain knowledge through education that is self. Then next is your departmental, next is your organizational, next is your society, and finally is your nation wise. So from environment point of view it starts with self, next is your departmental, next is your organizational, next is your society, and next is your what is your nation wise manpower planning. मन रखो पिला माने जदि तमरो क्वेश्चन आछ निश्चित रूपे खंडे क्वेश्चन कैन अप्रोचेस इज अ शॉर्ट टाइप क्वेश्चन व्हिच हैज रिटन गोटे बड़ लंबा रे लिखा है but tomorrow process of manpower planning, types of manpower planning, nature, characteristics, objective, purpose of manpower planning निश्चित रूपे खंडे शॉर्ट गोटे लॉन्ग क्वेश्चन आसीबार चांस अछि. Okay, now level of manpower planning, environment wise self manpower planning, departmental manpower planning, okay, organizational manpower planning, then next is your society wise manpower planning and finally environment nation wise. तमे कहि परिबो गोटे यूनिट हमें सोसाइटी वाइज केमती मैन पावर प्लानिंग करूछु जेतिक वर्तमान गवर्नमेंट मैंडेटरी करि देला गवर्नमेंट इज डन द मैंडेटरी काइंड ऑफ थिंग कि इफ यू वांट टू स्टार्ट योर ओन यूनिट यू नीड टू रजिस्टर इट नाउ रजिस्ट्रेशन जतबे करूछ सेतबे कोन होची ना केतेटा सेही सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ कंपनीज आर ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर्ड एंड फंक्शनिंग Okay, so that what will happen, whether such kind of units are required or not required. So that is also come under your manpower planning. That is all about your society wise. Setting up new units, setting up new shops, setting up new plants. Government gives permission to set up new plants. Whether requirement is there, whether demand is there. If demand is there, we need to supply more and we need to set new units in the society for the requirement of the people. Then that is how the societal manpower planning is done. The number of units have to be set and what kind of people are there in that society. Accordingly, the organizations have to be set. Suppose, for example, I देखिबा कि PPL रे गोटे manpower planning करिबा. केते लोक चांदुआ करछ, चांदुआ यूनिट को सेठी डेवलप करबा और लोकन को ताको बिजनेस को हमें बढ़ाइबा. So that is what is also societal manpower planning. Then next is your nation-wise manpower planning. It's all about developing the education system so that the demand for manpower and the supply of manpower can be balanced. जदि imbalance हबो ताले कोन होची लोक माने बहुत लोक थिबे चाकरी कम थिबो बा चाकरी रिक्वायरमेंट थिबो किछि यूनिट रे से जगह रे लोक न थिबे. For example, हमें कहबा कि engineers are many. Don't mind because many engineers are my student. Engineers are many. But accordingly, do you think that the society or the government is able to fulfill their job requirement? All will say that no, the society and the government is unable to fulfill their job requirements. Then why the government had given permission to set new units, new educational institutes? This is what is the starting of imbalancing. Imbalancement happens with that. But I mean, the medical field, the requirement is high, but the supply is less. So that government should set up new educational institute. So to balance it, balance the requirement we need to set. Again, in that we need to inculcate the quality education. No, it is not like that. So quality education system should be set. That is what is your nation-wise education, your manpower planning system. So it moves from micro to macro, self to nation. Right? This is how the manpower planning concept is developed. These are the different types of manpower planning. The next is your approaches to manpower planning.
The level wise.
Okay, level wise, top level, medium level, and lower level manpower planning. But it is all about your the work what you are doing. Environment wise to define self, departmental, organizational. Okay, then next is your society. Then next is your nation. Self is there. We can identify career planning and succession planning. Departmental, we can say the level wise manpower planning. Departmental top level, medium level, and lower level say wise. Organization function wise. Okay, same wise with under define. But these are the different way in which we can discuss the types of manpower planning. Level wise, top level manpower planning, medium level. Now maximum number of people required to work in the lower level. So proper manpower planning is to be implemented at the lower level, and concentration is to be given to the top level, because those are the people who usually take necessary steps to adopt the manpower planning concept in the lower level. They are the decision maker, they are the implementer, they are the policy maker. Right? Then next is your approaches. The approaches of manpower planning are of three types. One is your social demand approach. Then next is your rate of return approach. Then third is your manpower requirement approach. The first is social demand approach. The next is social demand approach, next is your rate of return approach, next is your manpower requirement approach. Now all these three approaches are based on the education system of a country. So these are not organization wise discussed. These approaches are not discussed from organization wise, right? These approaches are not discussed organization wise, rather it is discussed from nation wise.
So last one is manpower return approach, no?
Manpower
Requirement.
requirement approach.
Sorry, sir.
Manpower requirement approach.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now these are all discussed from nation wise, but a country wise ever discussion huए, and this is all depend on your education system. ये जो education system को लेके हमें manpower planning concept को develop करिचु. Write 2 to 3 lines on manpower and on social demand approach. 2-3 line लिखी दियो, तापर मुझे को elaborate करिए. Such approach relies on the assessment of the society requirement. Assessment of the society requirement for education. It identifies the demand for education in respect or in regard to the individuals remain within a society. बुझिपारलो प्रथमतः हमको बुझिबार अछि कि manpower planning concept is all based on the education system. This is what is the beginning. So say to kon hochi now we need to we try to find out the requirement of manpower, because it is all about manpower planning is all about ame taku kohne family planning kohne. We are discussing it from placement point of view. We are discussing it from placing the people into different positions, place and with different kind of skills. We discuss the concept from that angle, right? Bujuchanti na nahi apan mane manpower planning ra concept, it is never identified from population point of view or family planning point of view. और हमें कहूचे कि केते लोक रहिचंती गोटे स्टेट रे बा गोटे कंट्री रे, we are not discussing it from that angle. Manpower planning or human resource planning is all about identified with the education system, because with that education only, with that knowledge only, the people can be placed in different places, in different organizations. That is what is the concept, because we have already defined the concept of right man at the right job, job orientation thibo. So from that angle we say that what is the requirement of the society, you need to understand, and ask for the requirement of society, you need to design the manpower planning. Now society requirement kemiti ase, one is that the education system, just write it, the education system within that society. Ko type ro, suppose gote loko kon kori sunandu, apan kahibe ki jane loko ku transfer kar diya gala Koraput. Someone is transferred to Koraput from Bhubaneswar to Koraput. Okay, now when he is being transferred to Koraput or an interior area, se kochi janchu seti kichi nahi ra, konosi bhala college nahi, school nahi, kon mu karibi, what I will do, mor jo chua kichi bhala padiya ku nahi, kichi nahi, kon karibi, so kemiti taku mu Bhubaneswar ku, he is everybody is trying to transfer to Bhubaneswar, or if you are from those area you will try to shift to Bhubaneswar or to a place jo mane Bhubaneswar achen se mane chahun output jiba pai. You know why such thing happens? It is only due to the societal influences. So one is that the education system of that society that reflects the manpower planning. This is first. Second is that the income and the source of income. The income and the source of the income, that also identifies the education system, which also develops manpower planning. Next is government grants. Government grants on education system. Government grants on education. Government grant kete asuche education system upare, that also develops the academical aspects or environment within that society. Next is the existing standard of admissions into various levels of educational institutions. The existing standards of admission.
Sir, 1 second.
The existing standards of admission into various levels of education or institutions. Now these are the आमे कहूचे कि सोसाइटी रो केमती होची ना, सपोज फॉर एग्जांपल गोटे ईयर वाइज देखिबा 2000 गोटे ईयर वाइज देखिबा, लेट्स से गोटे एग्जांपल दे परिबा, जस्ट 2015 16 17 18 19 20 21 22. Now 2015 रे हमें एजुकेशन सिस्टम देखिबा ना, गोटे रखिबा कि 10th केते जण पास करले, ओके 10th केते जण पास करले, 12th केते जण पास करले, +3 केते जण पास करले, पीजी केते जण पास करले, गोटे पर्टिकुलर सोसाइटी एंड सेही सोसाइटी रो हमर मैन पावर स्ट्रेंथ केते, पॉपुलेशन केते बढ़िला, एति कि पिला एडमिशन नेले, सो सेही वर्ष तार 10 केते वर्ष रे से माने एडमिशन नेथिबे, 10 वर्ष पूर्व मैन पावर केते थिले, से अनुसार केते पिला गले. So accordingly we need to develop the education system in that society. से सोसाइटी रे को परिमाण लोक जाउछन्ती 12th परे, को माने आईटीआई जाउछन्ती, को माने डिप्लोमा जाउछन्ती, बा 10th परे को माने आईटीआई जाउछन्ती, को माने स्किल बेस्ड प्रोग्राम जाउछन्ती. We need to define it. So accordingly we need to go with that. Suppose for example तमे कहि परिबो, देखो सबु जदि सरकार कोन करूछन्ती ना, सबु जदि कटक भुवनेश्वर रे करि देबे सबु भलो भलो इंस्टिट्यूट, ताले हमर अन्य सब एरिया डेवलप हे परिबो नै ना. सेटिंग ऑफ न्यू प्रोजेक्ट्स, न्यू ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस इन द अनप्रिविलेज्ड एरिया विल डेवलप द सोसाइटी. तमने पढिथिबो कि बैलेंस रीजनल ग्रोथ, बी रे बैलेंस, आर रे रीजनल, जी रे ग्रोथ. B or G is only possible when the government will give equal importance to all the areas of a nation. जदि तमे कोन करबो गोटे एरिया को, भुवनेश्वर को बा कटक को बा पुरी को जदि only you will concentrate, then what will happen? कोन हबो? Condensed population will increase. So maximum people, or rural or urban भी मिसी जीवो ता भितरे, हमें कोन बस्ती साही मिसी जीवो ता भितरे. To reduce those, the government should go with balanced regional growth. That is also the part of manpower planning. Properly it is to be designed so that when the government कहउछि कि बारिपदा रे गोटे करिवो मेडिकल, राउरकेला रे करिवो, कोरापुट रे करिवो. So if the government is doing such thing, then what will happen? Balance. सबु जगह को balance equal होबो. Even that is what is the requirement of the society, and accordingly the government should move. It is all about the government activity. It is nation-wise activity. So the manpower requirement on social demand approach, it states that how many people are taking admission. Now जदि सेही वर्ष 10 वर्ष पूर्वे केते पिला ठीकु, केते एज रो पिला आसीबे 15 15 वर्ष रो पिला ठीक आसीबे. सो 15 वर्ष रो मैनपावर केते कहउतला, केते पिला ठीक आसीले, तापर केते पिला एठु एठिकी आसीले, रेस्ट पिला गले कोडे, where they have moved, where the rest people moved, that is to be identified. Then where the rest people move. So what are the channels? One is +3. What other options are there? So that is how the societal manpower planning is identified. Tomar jo bohi hai 4 line 5 line mein lekha hai, but it is a different chapter. Social demand approach is a different and broad chapter where need to understand the education system which prevails in that particular society, whether balanced regional growth is applied, whether people have the financial condition. So these are the things that have to be analyzed. Here, the next is rate of return approach. सुलोचना मैडम मत 5 मिनट दियंतु मु जीबी आप छाडुची क्लास. सुलोचना मैडम, give me 5 minutes more. Now, what is that rate of return approach says? It is all, the rate of return approach is all about the education system as an investment. It identifies as an investment and how much return you are gaining back or you are getting back. Right? Now, rate of return approach is all about identified as an investment, education as an investment. And it is to be evaluated, it is to be examined, it is to be analyzed. And what is the return we are getting out of that? Suppose with this education, that is what is the return we are getting. And it is to be yes. It is to be calculated from monetary and your return like qualitative approach. Both the quantity and qualitative approach we need to evaluate. I mean, next class we will discuss. Madam is there. So next class I will start with the approaches and I will start with the unit 2.
Sir, between these 3 approach, which one is the best approach?
It depends on the situation condition. All are required. All are required. All the approaches are required.
If anybody asks, then what will be the answer?
Answer is all are required. You need to go with parallel. When you are thinking of a society, you need to go with societal approach. When you are thinking of the education from return point of view, suppose you are spending money on this education, what is the return you are getting back?
I want a yes.
That is what. And manpower requirement approach, see, you need to think of after passing whether you can place yourself, whether such kind of quality, with such kind of qualification, the organization intake is there. That is to be identified. Okay. So all the approaches are required. It is only thing is that you need to calculate the accurate number of manpower is required. Now these are all from macro sense we are discussing. These are all from nation wise we are discussing. It is not from organizational point of view. Okay, and the requirement of manpower can be discussed from organizational point of view. I calculate kariya, Markov analysis calculate kariya, ratio trend. Many techniques are there. Clear? Next class we'll discuss. I hope tomorrow I do not have any class. Unit 1 more mostly it is over. I'll start with unit 2 after discussing these approaches once again. Okay.